Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Business of YouTube podcast. Today, we have a long timer in the industry, always at the edge of moving and pushing the boundaries. It's very much involved in the sport industry, but digital industry, and there is an announcement after another. Like he's always been part of moving forward with anything digital and sports related. So, welcome to the podcast to Joe Caporoso, president of Team Whistle, dozen part of the Dozen Group. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
So, you have been in the industry for a long time. Being the industry very recent is like basically forever.
Yes.
And I'd like to know more about your story because you have been from the very early days. What's the story of Joe Caporoso?
So after I graduated college, I did a little work as an inside sales rep at what was a derivative of AOL at the time called Patch. And it was fine. It was nice to get experience doing sales, but I really wanted to work in sports. That's kind of something I always wanted. And I saw a job opening for a company called The Whistle as a cross-platform editor, which at the time was writing for their website and contributing to starting their social media team. So I applied. I got
Which
the
we're
job.
talking about like 2013 or
This is
14.
2013. Yeah, this is 2013. So somehow 12 years ago already. I think I was our 7th or 8th employee at the time. And I've been there ever since. So yeah, it's been 12 years. I kind of switched over from anything with the website to just our MCN network and social media, and then working closer with our broader content and sales team. We acquired 3 different companies during my time there, Tiny Horse, Newform, Vertical Networks. Then we were acquired by 11 Sports, and then 11 Sports and Whistle were acquired by DAZN. So while it's been one company and one job for 12 years, every couple of years has felt like a new job or opportunity because there's been a new acquisition in one direction every 18 to 24 months or so. Not in a bad way. It's just kept me on my toes and kept the job interesting. So I've been a lifer here, but had an opportunity to work with really 5 or 6 different companies affiliated with us in either direction since I started.
Well, you definitely weren't bored at what happened. Well, nobody was bored in the digital space in the last 10 years anyway.
No.
So everything happened, and it was all in the building, and everybody was building in a direction or another. But the key thing is that everything kept evolving. So everything was very quick, and nobody was just sitting down and watching what was happening at all.
Yes.
I definitely know that firsthand. And from an insider point of view, I mean, you've been involved in sports with the Whistle or Team Whistle now. Sorry, I just get confused of all the names. I'm like,
we
okay.
went the Whistle Sports, Team Whistle. It's been a ride.
Yeah. So what did you see changing over time in terms of the maturity of the sport business and the digital space? Because it did change quite a lot.
I mean, it's just been interesting watching how prominent YouTube as a platform and social more broadly as a platform has had to become for leagues, teams, federations, broadcasters. I think it was a huge prompt as to why DAZN acquired us. I think you can't have a distribution strategy now that doesn't have YouTube and the other social platforms front and center. And it's debatable whether you even consider YouTube a quote unquote social platform. I think YouTube thinks of itself as a competitor more towards a Netflix, which I don't necessarily disagree with, but being able to build a strategy that maximizes the content you have, that creates awareness of whether it's original non-live content or whether it's live rights, is just not faded away as being critical. If anything, it's become that much more critical, and more people seem to be consuming content on that platform through, sit back, longer form viewing. So balancing that while also continuing to drive on a short form strategy and juggling both at the same time has been an interesting both opportunity and challenge, I would say, in recent years. And we've also seen a nice uptick in different teams, leagues, and federations having interest in partnering with companies like ours to be their YouTube or social agency in sort of a white label capacity. And the desire for those services or to partner with people who have a long degree of experience in the space has been really important to our business. And I'm always pleasantly surprised, knock on wood, by the inbound opportunities we have around that. And just having our company be in the space for that long, be an original MCN, still having the foundation of that structure, even if we're ourselves a publisher and a social agency for our parent company in many ways, still being thought of as sort of experts on the platform in that space has been nice to see. And I think is a growth area for us and companies like us.
So I was smiling when you were mentioning you being an MCN,
Yeah.
because you can easily spot who was like there at the very early days. Who we all have been an MCN in a way or another, because there was just the MCNs, and then everybody developed in a way or another, like with completely different DNAs. But then there were like new companies, big MCN 2.0s. Let's put it this way. And
Yeah.
if you were saying MCN, they were looking at you like, no, we are not an MCN. Like if it was a bad thing, it's like you can easily spot if you were from the first era or not, because there was nothing wrong with being an MCN. It's like how you develop the business that is what matters. And clearly you have been building from day zero. So it's really part of the DNA, which is funny to see in a way. You probably know what I mean there.
Oh, yes. I don't know. It's been MCN 2.0, MCN 3.0. Do you still use that abbreviation? Do you just call it a network? It's interesting depending on who you're talking to. For now, I think the nomenclature has evolved to being that we're at the forefront of the creator economy, particularly the creator economy on YouTube. However you want to categorize that, I think that's fine. But yes, MCN, as it was originally conceived, has obviously changed and evolved. But I do agree.
A million times.
A million times. There's a mark that you've been doing this for a very long time at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, like, because we talked about the past, and I would like to see your view about sport industry and YouTube, like platforms in general, but as well on YouTube for the future. What do you see happening in the next few years?
I mean, look, I think YouTube will continue to lean in towards where and how they can get their own live rights, how they could complement other live right holders with their watch along products, and how do you make elements of it more interactive. I think it's only going to be that much tighter to real-time live distribution, different products that amplify that, and the impact that it has on longer form viewing on the platform. Just people who are watching YouTube on their TV, not just watching it mobile. Of course, there are parts of YouTube that work very well on mobile with everything they've done with short form, but just seeing YouTube becoming a home for long form podcasts, for longer form releases, I think we're going to see more of that, not less of that going forward, because of the monetization opportunities that are there for different creators, which every individual creator is like its own business now, right? And YouTube in many cases is sort of the primary monetization hub, unless they're going to build more of a subscription model. But even still, you could do that now with memberships and premium and other different elements that you have. So I think YouTube continuing to be a key hub for longer form conversations, longer form podcasts, things that complement live rights if it's not the actual live rights themselves, and YouTube continuing to be a factor in longer form viewing that is less close to maybe how people think of a traditional social platform and is more close to a streaming platform.
Or both at the same time.
Yes, they're both at the same time, which keeps all of us busy and on our toes from a programming perspective.
Yeah, definitely. Again, not bored. But speaking of, on your point, you were saying as well, like the sport is not just live. I was reading the announcement that you were doing about the FIFA World Cup, with working with creators, and there was the number that was like, oh my god, like that big number, which was like at 93% of the users of the audience is actually watching content that is not live. Which I knew by definition that it was really a big number, but when I saw 93%, I was like, okay, I'm an optimistic person, but 93 is a very big number. That's a big story, to be honest, on its own.
Yes. I mean, look, as we were thinking about this tournament and how we generate awareness around it and discussion around it, because parts of it are sort of new, the way it's being constructed and the way it's being marketed out. Being able to lean in to a wide range of voices and their own audiences and types of creators was a key part of this, and providing them certain degrees of access and getting unique content and not just kind of rinse and repeating the exact same thing from every single game was the hope in sort of building a wider creator program around this. And some creators are going to resonate more on TikTok, some are going to resonate more on Instagram, some are going to resonate more on YouTube. It's going to depend on the individual, but it's such a global tournament that we needed something that expanded out the overall voices talking about this thing and experiencing it in an authentic way. And that's what we wanted to provide, whether it was access to the games, access to the events around it, access to highlights or footage. That way it wasn't just a traditional broadcast and a traditional way of marketing distribution. I think there's plenty of elements that are key, but we want this to be a more forward-looking tournament, a more forward-looking package. So ensuring that as many international creators on as many platforms as possible were having an opportunity to bring a unique audience to this event was really a big priority for us right from when this whole thing got packaged up and started.
And how many countries did you involve in the project?
I mean, within the creator program, I believe we're somewhere around like 15, 16 different countries have someone involved. And what's nice about how DAZN acquired these rights and how DAZN is structured is this is truly a global tournament. We have global rights for it. We're broadcasting it everywhere for free to make it as accessible as possible. So, just by the nature of how DAZN is structured and by the nature of how this deal has been built, we need to find voices and creators in as many countries as possible. Yes, it's really important to have a strong U.S. focus with where all the games are and ensuring that we're curating that U.S. fan base around this tournament and going into a World Cup, a broader World Cup year next year. But very important that we're filtering it out through Europe, through Asia, through other parts of the world, because it's a global tournament and we're a global company.
It's a World Cup.
Yeah, it's a World Cup. We can't silo it to the US or North America. So ensuring that Germany, Spain, UK all have like meaningful representation was really important.
And also, like, you were involving, I read like 100 creators, like it's a massive amount of creators. And
Yes.
the thing that was then actually very interesting from my point of view is that they were very varied as well. It's not just people that are watching football, like very much core football. It's very, very different creators. And I think that that's the smart move, because at the end, it's really the entertainment side of it, like, with a wide view of it, that is going to create like the massive audience in a different way compared to just live streaming the game, which is one part of it, but it's the 7% as we were looking at the 93%.
Yeah. Well, it's important, as you said, to bring in different kinds of audiences. Like we don't want to just reach diehard soccer/football fans, depending on what country you're referring to it from, but getting in more casual fans, getting in people who are more interested to other elements around the game, the athletes' personalities, the athletes' fashion, the athletes' interests off the field, bringing in some different types of fan bases to be aware and excited about this tournament is important to make it as valuable as possible and get it to as many eyes as possible. And we always try to push the team not to just kind of silo to like traditional type of influencers or analysts. Like there's certainly a huge part of that and a big place for it, but we want to be able to cast a wide net. And that's the nice thing about how the different elements of the creator economy has evolved, because you're bringing in so many different types of people, personalities, and backgrounds. It creates a nice, big, diversified audience for the tournament and for us as a company.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. And do you have any early results to share?
I mean, look, just speaking through a social media lens and an off-platform lens, since we've propped up and launched our DAZN football handles, which was right around the beginning of this year, we're comfortably up over 5 billion impressions across all of our platforms. We've been able to scale the YouTube channel very quickly. I believe it's up over 2 million subs right now. Instagram and TikTok will both be up over 1 million within the next week or so as we get closer to the finals. So seeing that kind of like quick scale growth, because we didn't have standalone handles for DAZN football as an English language property at this time last year. We didn't really prop it up until the beginning of this year. Of course, the growth is rapidly expedited with the highlights and the games starting up. That has certainly helped a lot. But just seeing how well the highlights and the shorts are resonating on a YouTube channel that really wasn't overly active recently has been incredibly encouraging. And that total impression number spread across YouTube, spread across Snapchat, spread across X, spread across TikTok and Instagram has been really exciting. And it's just been, as you can imagine, it's just been a very high volume of posting. Most of these days, really up until today, have had 4 games, and the team has done a great job of, 24/7 coverage and just sort of finding ways to shift it out from a global perspective. And when you're posting at the volume that the team's been posting at, the results ultimately follow, and we've been excited by that.
Yeah, the numbers are pretty impressive. I was looking at the graphs of the growth of the channel, and I was like, okay, that's a proper growth. Definitely, it's a tenfold growth. But what is nice when you see those graphs, and I mean, the tenfold is pretty big, but then you're gonna retain part of the audience for the future, and then you can actually work out with that audience that is already there from a global perspective. So that's definitely something to keep in mind whenever there's a massive event like the one you're managing right now.
Yeah, it requires that sort of always on vigilance, like you said, but looking at the numbers and how they've really abruptly spiked as the tournament has got going. And it's also just shown that the tournament, I think, has been really well received. I think there were, maybe some unfair questions about how popular this thing was going to be, but seeing how much soccer fans are truly enjoying it and getting to see some of these teams compete against each other that wouldn't normally compete against each other has been great. And I think for DAZN, it's been great in the US market, getting that further exposure, getting our branding and our company awareness out there. And, from a Whistle perspective, getting to be a part of that process and sort of running the day-to-day social process as a company, I think is exactly what everyone had in mind when we were acquired. So to be able to really activate it around this type of major event has been great to see in practice.
Absolutely. One very last question, and then I'll let you go. I know it's busy with the World Cup.
We got more YouTube videos we have to get up, as you know.
Yeah, exactly. You can't stop anytime. If you were to suggest something to the world of sports that to embrace the platform, something that they're missing out right now, or something that is it's a must-have, what would that be?
I would just encourage. Open the mental aperture of what you can do on YouTube. Don't think of it as like it's just a place for social cut downs, right? What are you doing that is original, unique, and curated for that platform? And how are you parallel pathing not just a short form strategy, not just a mid form strategy, but a live strategy, a watch along strategy, a shopping strategy? How do you use every bit of the platform to expand your audience, interact with your audience, through community posts? How do you use every element that is available to you and get out of the thought or out of the habit that this is just a place for cut downs and it's just sort of this little like marketing engine? You have to just look at it as a wider ecosystem than that.
Well, I would say that given your experience in the platform and in the ecosystem, I think it's a very fair suggestion to give. I would definitely advise exactly the same. So, thank you very much, Joe, for being with us in this episode of the Business of YouTube podcast. It was very nice to talk to you and hear more about your experience, but as well like what's happening now and what's the future looking like of sports and YouTube. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, everybody, for watching, and see you to the next episode of the Business of YouTube podcast. Thank you. Bye-bye.